What would you do if you encountered a tree that hunts humans? And no, I'm not talking about some twisted fairy tale or movie monster. I'm talking about something far more terrifying. A massive plant with vine-like tentacles strong enough to wrap around a human body, leaves that can digest flesh, and an appetite that rivals any predator. Throughout history, every culture on Earth has whispered stories about deadly plants. From ancient legends to modern accounts, the idea that something as seemingly peaceful as a tree could become a killer has haunted humanity for generations. After all, we expect predators to have teeth and claws, but a plant that hunts humans? That's exactly what makes this story so terrifying. In this world, there exists a category of creatures discovered by few, but never officially documented. We collectively call them unidentified mysterious animals. Welcome to our UMAS video series, where the unknown becomes unforgettable. Today, we'll explore a mysterious creature from Madagascar, the man-eating tree. Trust me, after hearing this story, you'll never look at the plants in your garden the same way again. Remember those cultural whispers about deadly plants I mentioned? Well, let me take you to where one of the most chilling stories began. Picture yourself deep in Madagascar's dense jungle, 1874. You're walking alongside German explorer Karl Lecce, your boots squelching in the humid earth, exotic birds calling warnings overhead. That's when you spot something that makes your blood run cold. An 8-foot-tall monstrosity that looks like nature's worst nightmare. A giant pineapple with 8 massive leaves stretching 12 feet in length. But trust me, the plant's appearance was just the appetizer. What Lecce documented next would make even modern scientists question everything they knew about botanical behavior. As the explorer watched from behind thick foliage, local Makoto tribesmen performed what can only be described as a sacrificial ritual. And here's where our story crosses the line from fascinating to horrifying. Think you've seen creepy plants? Imagine watching those seemingly harmless leaves suddenly spring to life like giant tentacles, wrapping around a human body. According to Lecce's detailed journal, the massive leaves folded inward with terrifying purpose. But here's the part that'll really keep you up at night. The tribe collected the blood-mixed fluid that dripped from the leaves and drank it like some twisted form of nectar. When Lecce gathered enough courage to return days later, only scattered bones remained beneath those innocently swaying leaves. Now, before you write this off as one isolated incident, let me take you on a quick trip to South America, 1887. Explorer Bill James William just encountered something that would make our Madagascar tree look almost friendly. The Yatevio tree. Picture this. You're documenting local flora when you notice a trunk covered in thorny vines. Normal enough, right? Until those vines start moving like hungry snakes, snatching birds mid-flight and small animals from the ground. William's account in Sea and Land reads more like a horror novel than a scientific journal. But we're not done yet. In Nicaragua, something even more sinister was waiting to be discovered. The legendary vampire vine. Unlike its aggressive cousins, this plant was more subtle in its hunting methods. It wouldn't just trap you. It would drain every drop of blood from your body, leaving behind only tiny puncture marks as evidence of its feast. Explorers reported finding drained animal carcasses scattered around these vines, like some botanical vampire's dining room. Sounds impossible? Well, before you dismiss these accounts, let me show you some modern discoveries about carnivorous plants that might make you think twice about what's really possible in nature's grand design. Still think those explorer stories are just tall tales from the jungle? Well, let me introduce you to some real-life plants that might change your mind. Because while our man-eating tree might sound like pure nightmare fuel, Mother Nature has cooked up some pretty terrifying predators in her botanical kitchen. Let's start with something you can see right now, if you're brave enough to get close. Meet the Rafflesia, nature's very own monster flower. Picture this, a blood-red bloom bigger than you are, growing to a massive 6 meters. But it's just a flower, you might say. Well, get within smelling distance, and you'll quickly change your mind. Ever wondered what rotting flesh on a hot summer day smells like? That's this beauty's perfume of choice. And it works. Insects are drawn to it like teenagers to a horror movie premiere. But wait, it gets better. Ever heard of the Chilean puya? The locals call it the sheep-eating plant. And trust me, they didn't pick that name out of a hat. While it's not exactly jumping out and chasing down sheep like our Madagascar friend, its strategy is just as deadly. Imagine walking through the Chilean mountains and stumbling upon what looks like a normal plant, until you notice the razor-sharp spines. And is that? Yes, those are actual animal bones scattered around its base. This botanical trap artist uses those spines to snag its prey, holding them until they, well, let's just say they become plant food. And here's where science starts to get really wild. Just last year, researchers confirmed over 600 different species of carnivorous plants. That's 600 different ways plants have figured out how to hunt. The Australian pitcher plant? It's basically nature's version of a slippery water slide, except the ride ends in a pool of digestive enzymes. Not exactly the kind of pool party you'd want to attend. Then there's the sundew. Think Spider-Man, but with a much darker appetite. Its tentacles are covered in what looks like morning dew, but is actually one of the strongest natural adhesives known to science. Once an insect touches it, well, let's just say there's no calling for backup. But here's the really mind-bending part. These are just the plants we know about. Scientists estimate we've only discovered about 20% of all plant species on Earth. Think about that for a second. What else might be out there, hiding in the depths of unexplored jungles? Maybe those old explorers weren't so crazy after all. Speaking of undiscovered species lurking in unexplored jungles, let's rewind to when one such discovery shook the scientific world to its roots. When the man-eating tree story first broke, it spread through Victorian society faster than a Venus flytrap snapping shut. The investigation took an unexpected turn in 1888 when Edmund Spencer, the journalist who first reported the Madagascar tree, admitted to fabricating parts of the story. The perfect horror tale, he said, needed unlimited exaggeration. Case closed, right? Not quite, because while the Madagascar tree might have been embellished, reports of similar plants kept surfacing. The Yateveo sightings continued. The vampire vine stories persisted. And in remote corners of the world, stories of deadly plants became part of local folklore. The man-eating tree didn't just vanish into obscurity. It planted itself deep in our cultural consciousness. Think about John Wyndham's The Day of the Triffids, 1951, where mobile, carnivorous plants terrorize humanity. Or Audrey the Scent from Little Shop of Horrors, 1986, Singing for Human Blood. These weren't just random monster stories. They tapped into our primal fear of nature turning against us. The gaming world embraced these botanical horrors with open arms. Plants vs. Zombies gave us adorably deadly plants, while Resident Evil's Plant 42 showed us just how terrifying a mutated houseplant could be. In The Last of Us, 2013, the infamous cordyceps fungus created a whole new category of plant-based horror. And let's not forget Fallout's spore carriers, humans transformed into plant monster hybrids. Japanese media took it even further. Manga series like Parasite and Green Worlds feature deadly plant creatures. Recent documentaries like The Green Planet, 2022, have revealed plants to be far more active and aware than we ever imagined. They fight, they hunt, they communicate. They just do it in slow motion. Makes you wonder what else they might be capable of, doesn't it? So, are there really trees out there hunting humans? The Madagascar tree might have been debunked, but our fascination with deadly plants persists. Maybe it's because deep down, we all share that primal fear. The idea that something we consider harmless could turn out to be a predator. Next time you're walking through a forest and spot an unusual plant, take a closer look, but not too close. Because while the man-eating tree might be fiction, nature has proven time and again that reality can be stranger than our wildest stories. Remember, in the world of UMAs, the unknown will always be larger than the known. And somewhere out there, in the deepest, darkest parts of our world's jungles, who knows what kind of botanical horrors might be quietly waiting for their next meal? Think about that the next time you go hiking. And don't forget to subscribe for more unexplained mysteries. Because trust me, we're just getting started. After all, in nature's grand garden of secrets, we've barely scratched the surface.